The evening was thick with fear and tension as Harlem buzzed with the news. A white cop had been killed. Within an hour, patrolmen stormed the Walker's home. Isaac sat on the floor in headphones, a notebook of rap battle lyrics beside him. No one asked him anything. They just grabbed him. His mother screamed in panic, but an officer shoved a warrant in her face without even explaining the charges. Outside, a crowd had already gathered, white faces with cameras, black faces with downcast eyes. The media instantly amplified the headlines. Suspect caught a black teen. At the station, Isaac wasn't allowed a phone call. His interrogation happened without a lawyer. All they had was a witness who claimed to have seen him in the alley. No weapon, no fingerprints, no motive. But the public needed a name, a face, and swift justice. Isaac could feel that everything had already been decided. And as they led him out in handcuffs, he understood, for the first time, what it meant to be not guilty, but convenient. The trial lasted 6 days. 6 heavy, dusty, life-filled days. Isaac sat in the courtroom like a man severed from the world. No tears, no words, no glances, just a blank, almost empty face. His court-appointed lawyer spoke softly, as if afraid to challenge the prosecutor. The witness who claimed to have seen Isaac with a weapon stumbled over details. The judge shut down every attempt to clarify. The moment Officer Brennan, the victim, was mentioned, the tone shifted. He was a hero, a father, a protector of the streets. Isaac, a thug from the wrong side of town. On the 4th day, Isaac's mother, Mary, finally screamed. He didn't do anything. He wasn't even there. The judge demanded silence. Relatives held her hands to keep her from collapsing. His sisters wept. His father, who had returned to the city just for the trial, looked at his son with mute despair for the first and last time. Isaac never said a word, never stood, never testified. In that moment, he made a decision. If the system wanted to paint him as a monster, let it do all the talking. The jury deliberated for just 2 hours. The verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him in a monotone, life without parole because the victim was a cop. The courtroom erupted, some in approval, others in cries of pain. Isaac just lowered his eyes. In his silence wasn't fear, but the first spark of defiance. Prison was a world without time. Cell 3B, Block 2, maximum security. Isaac woke at 6 o'clock, ate tasteless food, walked the yard under the watch of guards with tired eyes. In the records, he was inmate A, 417,523. His name was gone. His voice unheard. His story forgotten. The first thing he learned, trust no one. The second, show no weakness. He avoided fights, ignored taunts, never asked for anything. In the library, he picked the thickest book not to read, but so his cellmates would think he was busy. At night, he lay staring at the ceiling, replaying his mother's voice. Then fragments of rhymes, old rap verses, words that once seemed meaningless, but now were the only things keeping him alive. One day, he watched a guard throw another inmate's letter in the mud. That's when Isaac first thought, don't just survive, leave a mark. His silence wasn't weakness, it was a weapon. The world wanted to erase him, but he'd become someone they couldn't ignore. He just didn't know how yet. His 3rd spring behind bars, the cell reeked of iron, sweat, and old newspapers. Isaac found a broken pencil under his bed. No paper. He tore a blank margin from a newspaper and started writing. At first, just fragments. At night, while others slept, he scribbled about that night, not the trial, but his mother's gaze. How he walked past his childhood in handcuffs. When he finally got a notebook smuggled in by the librarian, a former English teacher, he wrote obsessively. Not about himself, but about Harlem, about lives with no choices, about the fear embedded in black skin from birth. But in one chapter that night, he described a figure in a gray coat, running down the alley, blood on his sleeve, a fleeting glance in Isaac's direction. No names, no accusations, just the truth. Every word was a gasp of air. The book grew. Pain turned into purpose. Isaac wrote, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. His voice wasn't a scream, but a whisper that, once heard, couldn't be forgotten. Isaac's book wasn't a memoir. It was a cry hidden in the rustle of pages. He called it The Invisible Man from 41st Street. For the prison writing group, it was a revelation. Inmates begged to hear chapters aloud. The guards grew uneasy. One of them was speaking too clearly, too powerfully. In one chapter, Isaac described the night of the murder with chilling neutrality. He never accused, but if you read closely, you saw he wasn't alone. A man in a gray coat, with a wounded arm, a face Isaac was afraid to remember, too familiar a face. No name in the text, just a pause between the lines. Writing became his salvation. He feared the day he'd finish because then he'd be left empty-handed again. But the prison program's editor agreed to send the draft to a small publisher that worked with inmates. A print run of 100 copies. The book went unnoticed until it reached Liv Watson. Liv was 27. Once, she dreamed of being a crime reporter, but reality landed her at an online outlet specializing in social seams, stories no one else would print. Her father had been a cop, fired for evidence tampering, though it never went to trial. He drank himself to death. Since then, Liv distrusted the system and fought to expose it. A friend from a book club handed her Isaac's novel. The first chapter was autobiographical, the third poetic, the fifth the gut punch. This wasn't just writing, it was evidence wrapped in metaphor. The further she read, the surer she became. This Harlem kid wasn't just telling his story. He was protecting someone, or afraid of someone. Liv dropped everything. She dug into Walker's case and hit a wall. Half the documents were lost, witnesses unreachable, the trial itself a sham. The deeper she went, the clearer it became. Someone wanted Isaac's silence forever, but he'd spoken. Now it was her turn. Liv started simple. She requested Isaac's case files. The replies were bureaucratic brick walls, lost in archive transfer, sealed due to officer's death, requires attorney request. For an 11-year-old case, the secrecy was suspicious. She went to the courthouse, scoured old newspapers, tracked down a librarian who remembered the headlines. Cop falls, thug pays. Not a word about evidence. She found the reporter who'd covered the trial. Retired now, he spoke reluctantly. Isaac stayed quiet, and that suited everyone. They needed a suspect, fast. Or else serious. He didn't say it outright, but his eyes held guilt and fear. The police were no help. Those still on the force wouldn't talk. Only one ex-Sergeant Clay agreed to meet, anonymously, in a mall parking lot. He was just there, Clay muttered. Someone else was in that alley, but no one wanted a scandal. One kid was a smaller loss. Liv's spine turned to ice. Unofficially, she'd just been told. They knew the real killer. They'd just swept it under the rug. Digging deeper, Liv found a name. John Kelsey, Officer Brennan's partner, on duty that night, yet nowhere in the case files. She requested the internal investigation report denied. But in an old police gazette, she spotted a blurb. Officer Kelsey transferred to admin after 41st Street incident. She found Kelsey's photo. Gray coat, exactly like Isaac described. Coincidence? Too precise. A former activist, now a lawyer, told her Brennan was about to rat someone out. Kelsey was suspected evidence tampering, drug cover-ups. A week later, Brennan was dead. Case closed. Liv understood. This wasn't a mistake, it was a cover-up. Isaac hadn't named names because he knew the cost, but he'd left enough for someone like her to piece it together. The only question, would she finish before they silenced her too? After months of fighting bureaucracy, Liv got visitation rights. The interview was monitored, no recordings. Isaac sat calmly behind glass, older, but his eyes alive. I read your book, Liv said. There's truth in it. I'm close. Tell me who was in the gray coat. Isaac stayed silent. Then, softly, ask the wrong person the right question. They'll panic. Don't change tactics. You're closer than you think. Were you afraid? Number. Afraid they'd hear me too soon. You're right on time. He gave no names. But Liv understood. His silence wasn't weakness. It was a shield held until someone strong enough to wield his words came along. As she left, one word pulsed in her skull. Hurry. If she exposed this, it wouldn't just hurt one man. It would wound the system. And the system didn't forgive people like her. Liv drafted her article, not journalism, but an indictment. She named Kelsey, the missing evidence, the anonymous confessions. Her editor censored it. We can't afford a lawsuit. 2 days after the watered-down version ran, Liv was under review at work. A source accused her of invading privacy. Then came the surveillance, the same car outside her apartment. Fake calls to her mother's hospital. They wanted her to stop. Instead, it fueled her. Liv tracked down Tonya, Brennan's ex. Chain smoking in a diner, she whispered. He was scared. Said he couldn't stay silent. That night, he was supposed to hand over files. Then cops. A body. A Harlem kid. Neat. She wouldn't go on record. But she gave Liv a tape, Brennan's muffled voice arguing with someone. You're crossing the wrong people, Jack. I don't care. I won't cover for corrupt bastards. Proof. Circumstantial, but proof. Liv wouldn't back down now. Isaac wasn't alone. Neither was Brennan. She'd be their voice. Liv's second piece had it all: the tape, Kelsey's history. Her outlet refused to publish. Pressure from above. She quit, posted it on an independent platform. Silence. Then an explosion. Number justice for Isaac trended. Analysts dissected the case. Then Kelsey fought back, denied everything, called Liv a smear campaigner. Threats poured in. But that night, an email from Isaac's prosecutor. "We need to talk. I made a mistake. Come alone." Liv's final article. A voice from prison dropped at midnight. By morning, it was everywhere. Protests erupted. Marchers held signs with Isaac's words. The mayor's office announced a reinvestigation. Isaac was summoned, his first interview in a decade. His quiet voice, broadcast live, shook the city. The prosecutor filed for an appeal. The court agreed. Harlem roared. The chain of silence had snapped. The retrial was televised. New lawyers. New witnesses. Even the prosecutor testified. "I let the system speak for me. Today, I speak for the silenced." Isaac finally spoke. Not just about that night, but the years of silence, the book, his mother's faith. Liv sat in the back, crying into her notebook. The verdict: not guilty. Isaac stepped outside in sunglasses. No smile, just the sky. Freedom wasn't sweet, it was bitter. But it was his. 3 months later, Isaac moved away, published his Buno, a bestseller. Liv turned down big offers, wrote her own. The police department purged itself. Kelsey retired. His name faded into the shadows where he belonged. Isaac started a foundation for the wrongfully convicted. Letters poured in from kids terrified of disappearing, mothers who wouldn't give up, journalists still fighting. A young reporter asked him, "If you could go back, would you defend yourself?" Isaac smiled. "Then, I wouldn't have written this book, and it saved my life." And not just his.